17 after Ethan and Lewin. Well, we're joined now by the director of the Candlewood Lake Authority. This is the big cheese of the lake right here, Larry Marsicano. Hey, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, pleasure.
You.
Thank you for having me.
So we were talking about, I did do this blog, got a little reaction, especially from Joey Woogie Chandler.
Woogie, you said. Woogie is from something about Mary. You remember that?
Fine. Woogie.
That's Woogie. That's Woogie right there.
He goes, dude, the lake is 15 miles long. It goes through how many towns, let alone how many coves there's to hang out. If you don't like the music, go to another spot. Shouldn't have to go to another spot.
All right. Well, that's your opinion. Larry, what do you think about that?
Very hot topic.
Yeah?
As a matter of fact, it was only a couple of weeks ago, there was
Good morning.
Board of Selectmen meeting in Sherman where the very idea of an ordinance was raised. Mm-hmm. So there are folks out there that are very strongly supportive of some kind of regulation out there for noise. It's a little complicated.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing issue.
Because the lake is its own entity, right? I mean, you're attached to these towns in one way or another in each town, but
it's really complex. So there's three layers of kind of jurisdiction. There's the locals, and each town has their local ordinances that they can enforce with their own local PDs. Or if you're a town like Sherman, you don't have a PD, you just have a resident trooper. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they might have local ordinances, and I don't think other than Danbury, maybe another one, none of these towns have noise ordinances. There is the state level of jurisdiction, and we have the state enforcement folks out there, the ENCON police. They work for the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. And so there are some state laws that might come into play here. Public disturbance, creating a public disturbance is one, but there's certain conditions you need to meet before you're violating that. And then it's part of a FERC. It's a FERC lake, meaning that the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission oversees the hydro production, and that's a federal level of jurisdiction. And there are some stipulations in terms of the licensee, the power company that owns the lake, managing to some degree some of the recreational issues on the lake. So
you know a lot of crap about the lake.
It's very complicated.
So it is very complicated. It is complicated.
I'll tell you though, the music got my attention. This was a couple weeks ago. You and I started talking about this on the air,
right?
Because we were out on the party barge, and I saw this boat blaring music, so that got my attention.
That's a double-decker
That's a double-decker. I look over at it. It's a double-decker pontoon boat. But what really was the crime was not the music, which was terrible, of course, and very loud. It was that there were about 15 people on the boat, right? On top were 7 people. On the bottom were 7 more, right? Or 8 more. And the top was 7 dudes pumping steroids into each other and lathering each other up and dancing with each other while the ladies were on the bottom deck. There's the real crime.
Yeah, they were on the bottom deck because they didn't want to hang out with the dudes in the top deck.
That's right.
We know the double decker guy, and he's been encouraged more than once by not only our agency but other agencies as well to exhibit some control and some courtesy out there, and he has a tough time.
You know what they're trying to do? They're trying to simulate the little big town video called Pontoon about their party barge. It's a double-decker.
Don't know what the hell that is.
Well, it's a video. It's a country.
Is Woogie involved with the double-decker? That's what we got to get to the bottom of this.
I don't know. I have no idea. What is going on with the algae situation?
Yeah, well,
I thought we had carp in there eating that stuff up.
Well, we put the carp in there last summer. And that's to eat the weeds. So
right. That was a big deal, right? Because you had the bass, you had the fishermen. I don't know if it's bass, but you had the fishermen guys want the algae in there, right?
Well, let's differentiate the algae and the weeds.
Oh, okay.
So the green color in the water,
that's the algae.
That's the algae, and then the weeds on the periphery of the lake. That's obviously the weeds, and they're separate but related issues, and we put the fish in there, the AAA grass carp, to help manage the milfoil.
Okay.
And they usually take a couple of years to get that program to the state you want it to be in, where they're managing the lake, and they've been really successful in Lake Ball Pond over in New Fairfield and other places. So we expect in time to get to that level.
That's good.
The algae is a different story. That's something that historically, you would associate lots of pollutant runoff, fertilizers, that sort of thing, feeding the algae in a process they call eutrophication. And we kind of had that in check for many years. Candlewood has a very interesting water quality history, and it really saw real issues, probably starting from the 50s, and then really took a nosedive between the early and late 70s, and then some of the bleeding was stopped then, and we've kept things in check up to the last several years, and now we're seeing these algae blooms. But you'll also read about the thing down in Florida, Lake Okeechobee, spilling out into the Florida coast, algae bloom problem.
You're assuming we know how to read.
Okay, I took a shot there. Last year, maybe you listened to this one on the radio then.
Right.
The whole issue in Toledo where they couldn't, their whole water supply was... That was Lake Erie with a big algae bloom out there. So there is kind of a global thing going on with blue-green algae blooms.
Yeah.
And what they've learned in recent years is...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have some questions.
Sure.
Number one, why do fishing boats go so fast? do they get a report that there's bass over one part
Yeah,
of the
that's
lake?
right. They got to get to that bass before somebody else does. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there is a speed limit on the lake, as most people that boat
Not
on
for the
Candlewood.
bass, not for the boat. Fishing boats.
We got them out there. They typically get right to 45 and leave it there. I mean,
That's cool.
45 on the lake is moving, as you know. I mean, you don't.
My party barge goes 5
Ethan
miles
can't
an
go
hour.
to 14 miles an hour.
yeah. So and you know they're competing and looking for the spots.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting. That's another community that uses the lake a lot, and most of them, 99% of them, are all law-abiding citizens and
Sure.
care for the lake.
I'm not dumping on the fishermen. I mean, it's a.
It sounds like you're dumping on everybody. You're dumping on the fishermen. You're dumping on the party
Woogie.
kids. You're dumping on Woogie. You're dumping on everybody.
You know what? It's a
You
trophy
sound like an
lake
old man crying, "Get off my lawn."
Let me ask you a question.
Let me tell you before. There's the National Bass Group,
Right.
And Candlewood was ranked last year number 24 or 25 in the country.
That's pretty high.
That's pretty hot. I
Yeah.
mean, so if you like to go bass fishing, Candlewood is
Yeah.
a place where everyone comes to, and our season opens up a little bit earlier than our neighboring states. So guess where all the tournaments
Yeah.
come early in the season?
Sure.
They come
Yeah.
to Candlewood.
I'm going into the station, and they're coming up Route 37, man.
Oh, yeah.
The dozens. Let me ask you this question: across, not sure the name of the island. Is it Green Island? Across from Brookfield Shores, where there are like docks and
Yeah. Pine Island.
What is it?
Pine
Island.
Pine Island.
Are those owned? I mean, are they homesteaded? What's the deal with
That's
those?
the only island that is still not owned by the original owner, Connecticut Light and Power.
Yeah.
So the big islands like Green and Deer, over by where Chicken Rock is, everything. Those islands are still owned by CL&P.
Yeah.
The small islands that are little things, those are owned by the current power company, and
That's the Canadian conglomerate, right?
Right, PSP, right.
Yeah.
But Pine Island was the one island that actually was owned, private ownership, and there's supposed to be no permanent structures there.
There are permanent structures.
There are permanent structures there. Yeah, so
It's also creepy because we actually went on there during like maybe the off season.
Yeah.
And one of the dumpy docks over there is it's like broken up, and we kind of explored.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
Here we go.
Vaughn's Neck.
Oh my God.
That's creepy.
No, it's not creepy.
It's
We
creepy.
went there. It's beautiful. It's a bunch of nice houses, nice structures,
They're not
whatever you
nice.
call them. It's not creepy. Get out of here.
Well, you're talking about the cabins out there
Yeah,
that are
the
water
cabins.
access only.
Yeah,
And
they're
then the
not-
rest of Vaughn's Neck is another really interesting topic. There's 700 contiguous acres out there that is still owned by...
Excuse me?
Contiguous. You went with contiguous.
Sorry, my bad.
We're in the shallow end of the pool here, Larry.
There are 700 acres that are still owned, open space by Connecticut Light and Power, and we've maintained a dialogue with them and encouraging them to always keep those lands permanently protected. There's some levels of protection, but if you're in New Milford or you're over in New Fairfield and Sherman looking across, all you see is the wooded areas, and you think you're in the Adirondacks.
I'm fascinated by that.
And there's some interesting things in there going on. Like, for instance, they don't have the pressures from the deer browse that we have around here.
Right.
It's a very unique and interesting environment over there.
It certainly is.
And needs protecting.
If you ever need pictures for your website, Ethan's got them.
Yeah.
He has photographed every square inch of the lake.
Great stone walls in there. And
I'm looking up from my party barge, and I'm looking up. Where are the damn roads?
yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
get in here? And obviously, you only get in.
Are you
by
familiar with the Power Squadron's little camp? They have on the eastern side of Vaughn's Neck, across from the Milford. the Lake Candlewood Power Squadron lease a portion of the property. They have a little dock out there and a little campsite there. And then if you go a little north up Vaughn's Neck, you'll actually see the old road that comes off of Vaughn's Neck and goes into the water, going across to, kind of over to where Gerard's is. And so there is actually old roads up there.
There we go. That was another thing we got to check out. All right, we got to thank Larry for joining the show here.
Larry, thanks for coming in, man.
My
Really
pleasure.
appreciate
Anytime,
it.
guys.
He's our guy if we have any questions about Candlewood Lake. I have a lot of questions.
You got questions. We got to find out. I got questions. We got to find out who Woogie is.
I know.
Get to the bottom of his...
I'm sure Woogie will get a hold of us.
All right.
Thanks again, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it. 828, Ethan and Lou here, I-95.